Today we have a presentation by Mike Long. Mike is the Domain 20 Manager with the National Ecological Observatory Network, or NEON. His presentation will be on the National Ecological Observatory Network, open data to understand changing ecosystems. NEON is a partner with the HETF and the U.S. Forest Service, and we're so happy to have him here today. And Mike, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Thank you, Olivia. Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining today's seminar and taking time to learn about the National Ecological Observatory Network. I'll be referring to it as NEON, obviously. And I'll talk about the work that we do in Hawaii and our connections to the Hawaiʻi Experimental Tropical Forest, which I'll just say HETF. Again, as Olivia said, my name is Mike Long. I'm the manager for NEON here in Hawaii, and I've been with the project since March of 2018, kind of when this site got off the ground. Prior to NEON, I had worked for several projects on Hawaii Island, and one of the first was as a biological field technician with the U.S. Forest Service when the HETF had just been established. So I was fortunate to spend several years working in the Lapoihoa unit of the HETF, and I'm excited about the possible connection between our work with NEON and the ongoing work that's being done in the experimental tropical forest. So in this talk, I'll go over kind of the what and the why of NEON, what we are, why we exist, the sampling protocols that we conduct here in Hawaii, give you a little snapshot, little snippets of some of our data, and talk about resources that are available for users and educators and just researchers, land managers, just basically the general public. So I'll get into it. What is the National Ecological Observatory Network? We are a program sponsored by the National Science Foundation. It's a 30-year project, and we're operated under a cooperative agreement with Battelle Memorial Institute. They're based out of Columbus, Ohio. We are a continental-scale ecological observation facility, which records observations and collects samples from most of the major, we try to get all the major biomes within the continental US, Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And these ecoregions, or in NEON speak, we call them domains, they represent distinct vegetation, landforms, and ecosystems capturing, as much of the full range of ecological diversity and climate variability. Through this facility, we offer free and open data on the drivers of and responses to ecological change. So our staff will go out and we'll collect and verify. We have pretty rigorous QA/QC procedures, and then we'll provide the data to users through our website, our web portal. And I'll show that in a little bit. And all these data are freely available to anyone through the web portal. We also provide a standardized and reliable framework for further study. So scientists and other research entities and schools and other programs can propose additional sensors or instruments or even data collection protocols or other sort of ancillary study that they want to do. They can use the NEON infrastructure, and they can put an application. It's called an assignable asset. I'll go into that in a little bit later, to use even NEON personnel and our site access and that sort of thing to accomplish their research goals. And then NEON is also designed to have some data interoperability and integration with other national, international network science programs, so like Ameriflux and that sort of stuff. Those sort of programs. Several of our NEON sites are co-located with LTER sites. So our data, our observations can also be included, added into their wealth of knowledge. So why are we important? This is kind of the first time there's ever been such a large scale, fully funded, long-term kind of research or observation ecological project with such rigorous data collection, and it also being freely available to the public. It's highly coordinated national system for monitoring ecological changes across many spatial and temporal scales. And to show you the expanse of NEON across the U.S., 81 field sites across these 20 different domains, as we call them. 47 are terrestrial, and that's what we have here in Hawaii, domain 20. And there are 34 aquatic sites. So that includes, in some places, there's creeks, there's rivers, there's lakes and streams. We do not have an aquatic site here in domain 20 in Hawaii, as nice as that would be. It was not part of the original scoping and funding when they established NEON. So you have to settle with the pretty amazing data that we're able to collect just from our forests here on Hawaii Island. And so I'll describe a little bit of our site in Hawaii. So we are domain 20. We're representing the Pacific tropical domain or ecoregion of the US. And we are located in Puʻu Makaʻala Natural Area Reserve, which is on the eastern slopes of Mauna Loa on Hawaii Island. Our office, we are based wonderfully, fortunately, we're with a lot of gratitude to be based here at the U.S. Forest Service Institute of Pacific Islands Forestry, which allows a great opportunity for collaboration with all sorts of different partners. And so this is our field site. If you take Steinbeck Highway all the way up to the very end, you enter Puʻu Makaʻala Natural Area Reserve, excuse me. And we have plots scattered all throughout. So we have 20 distributed plots, and they go kind of from the low elevation here in the east, around 3,400 feet, up to higher elevations in the west, about 6,200 feet. We have a climate tower, and I'll show you pictures of that, and here at about 5,200 feet, roughly, and around that are 20, we call them tower plots. The idea being is that we collect data, make observations here within these tower plots, and see if the changes that we can find in the plot are anywhere connected to the data that we get off of the climate tower. And then additionally, we have 10 mosquito plots, which every month we try to collect mosquitoes, and a pretty decent 2,000 foot elevation gradient between our lowest plot here and our higher elevation one. So I mentioned a lot about data and the observations and things and the samples that we collect. We use standardized methods across all the sites in NEON. We do have some particularities with Hawaiian flora, tree ferns, right? There's tree ferns here in Hawaii that aren't found anywhere else. So in some cases, some of these protocols are designed for, or somewhat site specific. But in general, we try to use standardized protocols across all field sites. And they kind of are in the realm of instrumentation. So that includes our climate tower, which is at about 5,200 feet. It's 105 feet tall, about maybe 25, 30 feet above the Koa and Ohia canopy. Let's see, we do observational sampling protocols. That's when we actually get out into the forest and put our hands around the trees and dig through the soil and well, I should say sample the soil, and then collecting the beetles and mosquitoes. And then the third main system out here is the airborne remote sensing. So we here in Hawaii, we have to contract out a third party to do our flyovers, and it's recently been ASU, Arizona State University, so Greg Asner's lab, and they last flew it in 2020, and I'll go through that in a little bit. But they collect high resolution camera data, hyperspectral data, and waveform lidar data. So now I'll go through a little bit what we collect on the tower. So this is a nice little picture of it. The idea is like at regular heights going up the tower through the canopy. We have pumps that kind of suck in the air, and we analyze it for carbon dioxide. So it's an eddy flux, or we call surface atmosphere exchange. These boom arms, and then we also do well, I'll get into it, but temperature, humidity, kind of solar intensity. We'll get into that. Just to give you an idea of how the height of our tower at 105 feet compares to the others across the observatory. We're kind of in the middle as far as height. There's far more shorter towers though across the observatory, where in the prairie and the desert, tundra, they don't need very tall towers. The height of the tower depends on the height of the surrounding vegetation. So here at Wind River Experimental Forest in southern Washington, where the giant Douglas fir trees, it's a very, very tall tower, 240 feet, I believe. So we are kind of in the middle. On the top of the tower, whole slew of instruments. Here is our field ecology ESIS, and she is providing a tour to a couple Forest Service ecologist staff. We have Rob and Ian, and here we can take this is a 3D wind kind of sense of how the wind is flowing. It all goes into our eddy flux calculations and the data products. And so the temperature, I'll give you a sense of what the data that we collect, how it looks when you go on the portal. There's a data viewer, which is cool because you can see how data you collect or data captured in one domain or one site kind of compares with the others. And here I plotted temperature at the tower top here in Alaska. You can see the range from -20 up to almost 0 here, and this is in April, and compare that to what's happening in Arizona and large temperature swings. And here we are in Hawaii in the Goldilocks zone, which is pretty nice. Additionally, here's another map of or plot of wind speed just from our tower alone. So we have the tower top wind speed, and then we have the boom arm at the bottom also collecting wind speed kind of near the forest floor. And this occurred during the December 6th or 7th of 2021, that major Kona low event, giant windstorm. That, as you can see, knocked out power. There's a bunch of tree falls and stuff, but you can see how it's interesting to plot the wind speeds, the great wind speeds at the top versus how it is near the forest floor. We also collect rainfall, primary precipitation. This is our DFIR, it's a double fenced intercomparison reference. It's a long name for a pretty fancy 6-gallon bucket on some springs, and it's measured with these little tensiometers, those little crystals, and based on how the spring, how the tension of it determines the weight of the water, how much precipitation has fallen. Here's a little snippet of some of the rainfall. I had mentioned that Kona low with the wind, and there was a lot of rain. Here's some of the daily precipitation that happens up there, these big rainfall events. So we have the tower, and then also around the tower, we have soil plots in which we have automated instrumentation as well. Here's kind of a schematic of a typical soil plot. It says 2 meters depth. There's no way where you could get 2 meters deep in this particular forest. It's a very young lava flow, so there just hasn't been enough time for soil development. But in essence, you can see that we have soil CO2 sensors, so soil respiration at various depths, through fall collectors. This is what it looks like in one of our soil plots. So just I get a sense of how much rainfall makes it through the canopy to the forest floor. These are the CO2 sensors, and then these arbors with a little arm to get solar intensity kind of from the ground and then from the air, as well as temperature and humidity. I'm going to pause here, and if you also have questions about it, you can ask Olivia, because Olivia worked in these tower plots. She was a Kupu member with us a couple years ago. She's fantastic, and she'll tell you all about it if you ask her questions. So that's kind of the instrumentation platform or system that we have, and then we have the observational and the system. And I'll go through some of the protocols and the data we collect in Puʻu Makaʻala. So a lot of them have to do with the plants and the forest and the vegetation. And so every year we sample, we observe plant diversity, so the species and the cover, the ground area that they cover. Abundance. We do phenology measurements, so every week we walk a transect that makes observations of these marked individuals, and so we'll see how they change over time as far as their flowering and the fruiting. And just recently this year, we've started our phase 2 of phenology observations, which meant that we reduced the number of individuals of the 3 main, which were Pukeave, Koa, and Ohia, and have introduced approximately 17 other taxa into our observations. So the other less abundant but equally important species. So we started introducing Olapa and Kolea and even some grasses and shrubs. So we'll have a much better sense of all the plants in Puʻu Makaʻala. And then we also look at pools and fluxes. So every year we take vegetation structure, so mostly biomass measurements essentially, right? Diameters of the trees, and see how they're changing over time. And then productivity, so every month we collect litter fall to see how much the trees are producing. Soils is a major protocol that we do. We sample 3 times a year to look at soil microbe diversity and abundance, metabolism and productivity and biomass, and then also look at carbon and nitrogen pools and fluxes. Another really important one, particularly here in Hawaii, is our mosquito sampling protocol. And we do that every month, and we look at the diversity and the abundance. And in many places where they collect buckets of mosquitoes in their sampling, they can do the pathogen analysis. We have yet to capture enough to do the pathogen analysis, which I guess is kind of good because we don't want that many mosquitoes. It's kind of weird. And we also look at phenology. And so here is kind of the map of where our mosquito points are as you go up in elevation from the east to the west. And I'll show you a sense of the numbers that we've collected over in 2022. So this is the quantity and the locations. Most importantly is their elevation. This is feet above sea level. So the quantity and the location of the mosquitoes that we collected for each month. And you see it tends to be more heavily towards the lower elevation, which is good because a lot of the endangered birds have been pushed up to higher elevations, and we kind of want to see the mosquitoes stay lower. We'll see, but as you can see, over time, even into the winter, we're seeing some mosquito abundance move up. We'll see what happens over time. It's kind of an interesting and very important data product. So in addition to mosquitoes, we have other invertebrate that we look at, which is carabids, the family of beetles, ground beetles, Carabidae. We do that 13 collections between March and October here at Domain 20. Other sites their scheduling is a little different. And we look at the diversity and abundance of ground beetles. And then why ground beetles? Well, they're pretty ubiquitous across the US, they're found in all the sites, and they have a nice unique placement in the trophic structure. They act as both apex predators and foundational prey species. So they're a nice predictor of ecological health. And so here's a little snapshot, or I'll go through a kind of a case study, if you will, of some of our sampling here in domain 20 and from our beetle collections. And we collect the beetles, we try to ID them as much as possible, and we send them to an expert taxonomist. And in particular for domain 20, we send them to ESSIG Lab, which is at UC Berkeley. And they look through our beetles whom we tried to identify as best as possible, and they found some that looked very, very different. So actually there were two newly described species of carabids from the collections that we did here in Hawaii in domain 20. And so the first of which is a Mosaichlothorax neonomus, which, and this is kind of an interesting study from Will and Lieber. It's a good read. Do a quick little synopsis of it. Is that this newly described neonomus is closely related to Mosaichlothorax swayzii, which is known from a kind of one collection, one gulch on Mauna Kea. And then the second newly described, just slightly smaller than neonomus, Mosaichlothorax bruneo nubiger. Excuse me if I butcher that. And it was closely related to Mosaichlothorax blackburnianus, which is on the Kohala, so on the northern part of Hawaii Island. And so it's kind of reasonable to think, swayzii could maybe make the march down to the slopes of Mauna Loa and eventually evolve into neonomus. But it's a bit of a trek for blackburnianus to make it from Mauna Kea to Mauna Loa and eventually, kind of turn into, if you will, for lack of a better term, into bruneo nubiger. So which kind of leads, wondering what undiscovered, undescribed species of carabid exist on Mauna Kea. And I think in particular in the Lahapoia unit of the Hawaiʻi Experimental Tropical Forest, because it's very similar elevation and forest structure to our site at Puʻu Makaʻala. So I think that's an excellent opportunity for further study. If anybody wants to reach out to me for advice or interest in conducting that study, I certainly encourage it and will help you out. Moving on to the next kind of system that we have for collecting data is the airborne remote sensing, and through the airborne observation platform. And like I said before, the plane that flies over to collect high resolution camera data, hyperspectral and waveform lidar data. And these are the flight boxes from January of 2020. So it's a pretty wide area that we have flown. The priority of which is to get the actual Puʻu Makaʻala, which is outlined in red, and our field site. But then they also had time and availability to fly kind of upslope of Puʻu Makaʻala Nar. Just kind of interesting to get a sense of what is Mauka, what is above the forest there. Here's an example of some of the high resolution camera data so this is Kulani Correctional Facility. Our tower, the neon tower, is right around in here. So this is kind of cool. This shows where our tower plots are, and then this is an old pasture that's being wonderfully managed and restored by the site host, the Natural Area Reserve System. And it's going to look gorgeous in the future going forward. And here is the hyperspectral data, looking at canopy heights with the kind of the purples and as the tallest trees, and the red. This is kind of ground level or not. I guess it's not the reflectance. That's their catchment tank. So that's the airborne remote sensing. It's all these data products are located on the data portal, the Neon data portal, and I'll show the email. Excuse me, the web address for that. I had mentioned aquatics. Again, we do not have aquatics here in Hawaii in domain 20, but elsewhere across the US and in the other domains. They do have the aquatic observation platform, and they have instrumentation. So they have the stream gauges, and they have the trolls and sondes and that sort of stuff. Instruments in the water to continuously collect data. But here's some of the sampling or the protocols or the observations that NEON makes in these different habitats. All right, now we can kind of get briefly into using NEON and how do people use us NEON as a resource. I mean, that's what we're meant to be, is for the public, other researchers to use us. If you go to the data portal, so that's the web address there, data.neoscience.org, there's various links, and you can explore data products. And so you would click on this link, and you'll see all the different sites, all the different data products that are available to you, and then you can download them. And they come in a CSV format, so it's a giant spreadsheet. And so what's important is to have some semblance or idea how to use R. R is very important for working with the NEON data. And if you're not comfortable, if you don't know how to use R, that's okay, because the website, we also have data tutorials. There's a lot of units or information tutorials on the website that help people kind of manipulate or use the data, introduction to R, to get you going. It's also a great resource for teachers. So we have teaching modules for educators to like little classroom units that they can use in their classroom using the data that is collected from by NEON. Additionally, there's code resources on GitHub. There's a NEON section on GitHub where people have uploaded and shared their codes that they've used in R to use the NEON data. And you can also download the packages. The most important of which in the beginning is the NEON utilities. That's in the basics that are incredible, important one at the very beginning to use. So we also, out doing the observations and then the protocols, we make the collections. I guess we collect the beetles, we collect soil. We also collect plant vouchers and the mosquitoes and soil microbes, and like, okay, where do they all go? We have archive facilities, the largest of which is at Arizona State University. That's where the NEON biorepository is, and the public can go there. It's all online. You can kind of check out or check the catalog and put in a request for different samples for your own study. NEON here in domain 20 in Hawaii is, again, kind of unique. Our invertebrates and our plant vouchers, so all our plant vouchers, our mosquitoes, and our beetles will eventually be archived at Bishop Museum on Oahu. So you can go there and you can ask to use and see our collections. And then I had mentioned before using the NEON infrastructure, that's the Assignable Assets program. And so this one here is an example. It's forget the names, I apologize. But it's to collect fungal spores that kind of travel throughout the forest, or actually any of the NEON sites. So these were established across all the main NEON terrestrial sites, and to see what kind of fungal movement there is. And so that was done past couple years. I think we're going to do another deployment here in the spring. We also had on the tower, this is a telemetry antenna used by the site host, the Hawaii Division of Forestry and Wildlife, and it was also used to track the movement of the Hawaiian hoary bats. So these are just a couple examples of how we can serve, how we can help out different projects and even land management. And since the beginning of NEON, so I think the first site was established around 2010, I think. Um, you can see over the course of time, there have been a lot more people who have used NEON data in their research or in their articles, and it's just going to continue to grow. So we're pretty excited that there's a fairly large user community out there. So we certainly encourage more and more and more. Please contact NEON, please contact me, I can help you out. And if you're interested in like how we collect and like and maybe your project, you want to align it with or connect it with the NEON data, our NEON protocols are also freely available, so you can see step by step and all the equipment lists and everything that we do in the field, and you can use it on your own study, which means you can tie in your research or study into the NEON data. We can also provide educational opportunities. So in the past few years, we've had some student groups come up. This one is pictured through Polina Aina, which is formerly Teaching Change. We had a high school, Hilo High School classroom and site visit. So we actually went into the classroom, talked about NEON, talked about the site, the importance of Hawaiian ecology and native forest and Hawaiian natural history. And then the classroom also came up and had a site visit, kind of get them out in the forest, observe how we collect the data, and they also had their own little data collection unit as part of their classroom activity. And this was a kind of on our publication, or one of the classroom units, using our phenology data and looking at our observations. Oh, this is the mean daily temperature, but connecting it with our phenology across these different sites, Alaska, Puerto Rico, and us. And so we're going to be doing this again, coming up with Waikea High School, and then hopefully just continue it on, because it's a great opportunity for local students to get up into these amazing surroundings that they have, and see what we do and see how they can help. Ongoing, or I should say in the past, ongoing, and then also coming up is kind of an arrangement or collaboration between NEON and AGU TEX program. What does that mean? That's the American Geophysical Union and their Thriving Earth Exchange. And so that's the website there. And the idea is NEON is partnering with the TEX program with the purpose of, like, NEON field staff can advise, help advise and develop and implement projects that are use NEON resources and are guided by local community interests. So, wherever the NEON sites are, we want to bring in the community, and if they have a particular question, they're wondering about something, but they don't know how to measure it, they don't know how to make the correct observations, they can use NEON expertise. It could be our staff subject matter expertise. They can use our data, our protocols. They can also use our staff to help, do the project management. So NEON staff will be what's called community fellows, with the idea of connecting the community who maybe has the research question that doesn't quite know how to really perform a study, and we try to connect them with the community scientists. And there's also the support of the tech staff through AGU, and even some of our NEON headquarters staff to help the process. Just as a quick example, there was a text fellow out of our NEON office in Alaska, and the community there, Native Alaskans, were wondering about harvesting berries, and how changing climate or the phenology will change over time. And so our text fellow Lori worked with the Alaskan community up there to implement a project. And so it's a really successful endeavor, which we would like to do here in Hawaii. I don't know how much. There will be some support from AGU and the TEX program to help with the project itself. That's kind of like, it's a lot. We do a lot, and long-winded. So it's kind of the overview of NEON, what we do here. And I should say that it takes an incredible amount of effort to make all these observations, to collect all the data. And domains have their seasonal staff. So every year they probably hire across the observatory roughly 250 seasonal positions, and hiring is going on right now. So if you know somebody out there, if you're interested in a position with NEON, you can go to this website, and you'll see all the positions that are available for the different domains. And also check back periodically, because there's full-time positions that are open throughout the year, and there's several available right now. And then, oh yeah, by the way, here's Olivia. Thank you, Olivia, for all the wonderful work you did with us as a kupu. Yeah, you really made a difference with us, so really appreciate your hard work. And that's it for me. That's for the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions you might have. You can turn your camera on. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. And yeah, shout out to NEON. It was so much fun. Best year ever. It was definitely the one of my first conservation jobs. So super excited to still be friends and partners with NEON. 10 out of 10 would recommend. And if anybody's, I will be sending out a follow-up email, so don't worry, you will get all those links. But yeah, for now we can start with questions. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and turn on their cameras, feel free to. Or you can still utilize the chat and I can say any questions. But yeah, we can move into that session.
I'll say you also have my email address. I can put it in the chat, and so you can certainly hit me up later as well.
Would also recommend that. Mike is a very friendly person. Just to chat, just email, just chat. But okay. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions for Mike? You're mostly getting thank yous.
Well, good. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Mike, I have a question.
Okay.
Do you happen to know what some of your most commoditized, like what people are looking for the most in your research, in your data?
I'm trying to think. It's a common question that I'm still waiting for the answer. Obviously, the AOP data is used quite a bit. So the aerial observation, observatory wide, it's used quite a bit. Not too much has been done with the Hawaii data in particular. We're still pretty young. We're still collecting the data and still trying to get our name out there. Some of the soil data has been used, also through the assignable assets. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. I know AOP quite a bit. I can circle back with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Just curious. Good to know that not a lot of people have been hopping on the Hawaii data. So if anybody's interested in that, you could be the first one to start using that stuff.
Yeah, what's really interesting right now, or a great opportunity, is that we have a postdoc here at the U.S. Forest Service who will be using the Hawaii NEON data to kind of make the first paper to kind of describe the site and also how it connects with other kind of tropical systems with the Forest Service, large scale data.
Awesome.
Oh, here's Shannon.
Hey,
Shannon.
Thanks, Mike. I was just wondering, the second phase that you said you just started, the second phase of phenology collection. Are you guys like revisiting the same plants every time? Is that
Yes.
Did I miss that? Is that what
Yeah. So it's going to be similar to the first phase. 3 species. So we have Pukeave, it's kind of a little shrub, and then we have Koa, big tree, and Ohia, big tree. And we did that for about since the beginning, so 2018 until the start of this year. 30 individuals of each, every single one was tagged, and we looked at the exact same one every week. We have since, as we're entering phase 2, we've reduced the number of those 3, so there's 5 of them, and then introduced roughly 17 of other taxa who will get their own individual tags. So there's repeat measurements on that same individual across the entire remainder of the observatory. So 27 more years.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, if anybody has any other questions, we can stay on. But if there are no other questions, we can let you all go. Thank you so much for spending lunch with us. We really appreciate you coming, and I hope you have a great rest of your Thursday.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.